Hello class, this is group 4. We'll be taking you through food situation in Africa, and with me we have 8 other members. They will introduce themselves. So I will usher in the first person who will take us through introduction.
Hello, I am Karen Septo. I'm going to take you through introduction of food situation in Africa. Food is one of the most important items in the world as it's a crucial for human survival together with clothing and shelter. These three items usually classify as man's basic need. Food security in Africa has come under extreme threats due to some factors, some of which are natural, with others are artificial, depending on the circumstance and the countries involved. A food secure world is one where people have access to safe, nutritious, and affordable food that provide the foundation of active and healthy lives. The definition of food security, when all people, all time, have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preference for an activity and healthy life. Food security affects more than human health and welfare. It also contributes to economical and political stability. It is often noticed that most countries of the world where there is political instabilities are also always associated with insecure territories. The food insecurity in such countries may have been as a result of political instability, or the political instability was a result of food insecurity. One often leads to the other. Food security has three aspects: food availability, food access, and food adequacy. Food insecurity exists when people lack sustainable physical or economical access to enough safe, nutritious, and socially accepted food for a healthy, productive life. Food insecurity may be chronic, seasonal, or temporary.
Okay, my name is Ben Sidney Keith. Food security on the continent has worsened since 1970, and the proportion to the malnourished population has remained within the 33 to 35% range in sub-Saharan Africa. The prevalence of malnutrition within the continent varies by region. Around 12 million people were suffering from starvation in the Horn of Africa. That is Somalia, Ethiopia, northeastern Kenya, stricken by the worst drought in the past 60 years. Announced that the FAO on July 12, 2011. In northeastern Kenya, around Wajir, capital of that province near the border with Ethiopia and Somalia, drought has been particularly severe. Trucks filled with water were brought there once a week from a neighboring community in order to meet their minimum needs for drinking water. 50 kilometers from Wajir, in the city of Kriftu, rainfall volume has been about 60% to 70% lower than the average for 15 years. Food security is not just about insufficient food production, availability, and intake. It is also about the poor quality or nutrition value of the food. The detrimental situation of women and children in particular areas, as well as the situation among female teenagers who receive less food than their male counterparts in the same households. Here are some of the categories of food insecurity. There are three main categories of food insecurity as classified by the Food and Agriculture Organization. One is the acute, that means severe hunger and malnutrition to the point that the lives are threatened immediately. For example, famine. Number two, occasional, when food security occurs due to a specific temporary circumstance. Number three is chronic. It's the ability to meet food needs is consistently or permanently under threat.
I'm Shirin Wangare. I'm going to take you through the causes of food insecurity in Africa. Food insecurity in Kenya is a complex issue influenced by various factors, both natural and human-made. Here are some key causes of food insecurity in Kenya. 1. Climate change and environmental factors. Africa is particularly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, including droughts, floods, erratic rainfall patterns, which can lead to crop failure, livestock losses, and reduced agricultural productivity. 2. Poverty. Widespread poverty in rural and urban areas limits people's access to food. Poor households often lack the financial resource to purchase enough foods or invest in agricultural input for production. 3. Limited agricultural infrastructure. Inadequate infrastructure such as roads, irrigation systems, storage facilities, and market access hinders agricultural development and productivity. Farmers struggle to transport their produce to markets, leading to post-harvest losses and reduced income, which in turn affects the availability and access.
Me and root cause of food insecurity in Africa is land degradation, soil erosion, deforestation, and unsustainable land use practices contribute to land degradation in Kenya. This reduces the fertility and agricultural land, leading to lower crop yield and ultimately affecting food production and availability. The fifth cause is conflict and insustainability. Regions affected by conflict, political instability, or ethnic tension often experience disruptions in food supply chains, displaced population, limited access to markets, and destroyed infrastructure further exhibit food insecurity in these areas. The next one is limited access to inputs and technology. Many small-scale farmers lack access to quality seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, and modern agricultural technologies. This limits their ability to increase productivity and adapt to changing environmental conditions, contributing to food insecurity. Market dynamics, fluctuation in food prices, market monopolies, and trade policies can affect food availability and affordability. Poor households may struggle to afford basic food items during times of price spikes or economic downtowns, leading to food insecurity.
I'm Sandra Chelangat, and I'm going to add on other causes. The other cause number 8 is population growth and urbanization. Rapid population growth coupled with urbanization and rural-urban migration strains food resources and infrastructure. Urban areas face challenges in supplying food to growing population, leading to food shortages and higher prices. Behind these health issues, diseases affecting crops, livestock, and humans can disrupt food production and consumption patterns. For example, outbreaks of pests and diseases in crops or livestock can lead to significant losses, affecting food availability and access. The 10th cause is policy and governance challenges. Ineffective agricultural policies, poor governance, corruption, and inadequate investment in agriculture can undermine efforts to address food insecurity. Lack of coordination among government agencies and stakeholders can result in inefficient resource allocation and implementation of food security initiatives. The 11th cause is lack of agricultural investments. Insufficient investment in agricultural research, technology, and infrastructure limits the ability of African farmers to increase productivity and adapt to changing environmental conditions.
I will be taking you through effects of food insecurity. We've already established that food in Africa is insecure, so we have some effects. We've only highlighted 3 effects. One of them is persistent malnutrition, which leaves children weak, vulnerable, and less able to fight common childhood illnesses, for example, diarrhea and acute respiratory infections, malaria, and even measles. Adolescents and adults also suffer adverse consequences of food insecurity and malnutrition. Malnutrition can lead to decreased energy levels, delayed maturation, growth failure, impaired cognitive ability, diminished capacity to learn, decreased ability to resist infections and illnesses. They can also have a shortened life expectancy. Another one is political instability. Just as food insecure individuals may manifest feelings of powerlessness, stress, and anxiety, and they also experience reduced productivity, reduced work and school performance, and reduced income earnings. Household dynamics may become disrupted because of a preoccupation with obtaining food, which may lead to anger, pessimism, and irritation, among other vices. And the last one is soaring food prices and food riots are among the many symptoms of the prevailing food crisis and insecurity. They were 50% higher in the South Madagascar than in the rest of the country. Household was selling their livestock, considered as their assets, but which had no value in the case of extreme drought. In Wajir, the prices of rice, which was the staple food, rose by 30% in 3 months, while the price of sugar doubled, and the purchasing power of people became nil.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Emmanuel Zukangu. I'm going to take you through achieving food security in Africa. Achieving food security involves various measures, including agriculture must respond to the challenges of feeding 9 billion people while protecting the environment and taking care of rural societies. It will be necessary to 1. Eradicate hunger and ensure food security. Global food needs will be 3 times higher in 2030 than they are nowadays. Some production factors can be increased, for example, plowing out more land, improving the access to scientific and technological process. For instance, agrobiotechnology, more research and development. Point 2, protect the environment and mitigate the impact of human activity on the environment. Threats are more salinization of soil, increase in sea levels of catastrophic floods, desertification, loss of tropical forests and of the associated biological diversity and over-exploitation of farmland and pastures, water scarcity, urbanization and large-scale engineering work.
My name is Victor Ramon. I'm going to take you through the point number 3. Take care of rural societies. There are over 300,000 industrial mega farms and 1 billion family farms. The 4 billion human beings who make up the rural societies can alter their migrations through demographic balance. The necessary increase in agricultural production must not ignore the implications for rural societies. A massive exodus from the countryside to the cities will cause enormous problems since cities, industries, and services cannot welcome rural people properly. The 4th point, the political process must strike an appropriate balance between people's rights to food security and free trade without frontiers. The science and trade dynamics and vulnerability of societies as well as of the environment, their natural and cultural regional diversity, and the tends towards the globalization model. The 5th point, good practices must be identified and examples of successful agricultural development should be publicized. In other words, agricultural models that will lead to sustainable development must be prioritized. The 6th point, we have food storage. Available food storage for food agricultural products can help dampen demand when there is a surplus and bolster supply when there is a shortage. In either case, it helps to stabilize prices, which maintains farmer income and consumer access to food. In absence of storage facilities, seasonal price fluctuations are even higher than those witnessed at the international level. In this regard, African governments should support local farm-based cooperatives to build community silos for commodity collection and primary aggregation. The 7th point, improve infrastructure. Developing efficient transportation, storage, and distribution systems to reduce food loss and waste. The 8th point, access to markets, ensuring that farmers have access to markets to sell their produce, which can improve their livelihoods and contribute to food security.
Mongi Brad, I'm going to take you through point number 9, poverty reduction. Addressing poverty can help improve access to food through increased purchasing power and access to resources. 10, diversification of crops. Encouraging the cultivation of a variety of crops can help mitigate the risk of crop failure and improve the overall food availability.
In conclusion, we have said that food security in Africa is not good, but we have talked about some of the causes and some of the effects that have caused the food insecurity. We have also come up with some of the solutions that can be taken to improve food security in Africa. That's the end of our presentation.